Stopwatch. Okay. Yeah. Councillors, ladies and gentlemen, you may recall from last month's Town Council meeting that I asked the chair at the time, who is also my ward councillor, Ross Cruz, why she failed to represent me. This was in relation to comments/objections requested of her regarding a proposal to ban me from all verbal communications with North Somerset Council and council officers. Mrs. Cruz is adamant that she was not consulted. I have to take issue with this statement because it is untrue. I have been very concerned about some of the minutes of the meetings as they barely reflect what was actually stated from members of the public, and from reading last month's Portishead Town Council meeting and the one in March, it appears I have good reason to be worried. I discovered from reading the draft minutes of the meeting of the 13th of April that the language used is what I would refer to as woolly, vague and unspecific. I quote from the minutes. Mrs. Duffy, the Portishead Town Clerk, wrote, and I quote, Anne Townsend felt that the minutes of the 9th of March are inaccurate, misleading and untrue. Just to be clear, Mrs. Duffy, I provided you with clear, objective evidence that the minutes were untrue, and this is not something I felt, it is something I provided clear evidence to both you and Mrs. Cruz. Another example is the quote, Anne Townsend stated that she has provided evidence that Councillor Cruz was consulted by North Somerset Council. Mrs. Duffy, you know I have definitely provided evidence because you have been given that evidence, and so has Mrs. Cruz. I'm very concerned that instead of ensuring the minutes reflect the facts, the clerk appears to be detecting Mrs. Cruz. Mrs. Cruz, why don't you admit that you failed in your duty of care towards me and did not represent me at a time when you were most needed? All the councillors present at the last meeting have been handed the email trail. That's what I've been handing out to all the councillors there. They were present at the last Town Council meeting. Okay? They will see from the email trail, it clearly evidences that Mrs. Cruz was consulted by the Customer Services Manager of North Somerset Council. The decision as to the accuracy of the minutes lies with you, because if a member believes that the minutes do not accurately reflect what was said, they need to propose an amendment, and that needs to be seconded, and the majority, of the page. Right, and a majority, and a majority vote taken in order to make the change. I got that information from Jo Duffy herself. It is therefore your responsibility, those of you that were present at the last meeting, to ensure the minutes are accurate prior to agreeing them. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Mrs. Townsend. Councillor Cruz?
Yes, I'd like to reply to that. At the meeting that was held when this first came up, I tried to tell you what had happened. I wasn't allowed to. I was bullied.
And your evidence for that, Mrs. Cruz? And your evidence for that, Mrs. Cruz?
If you listen to the tape, you would find out.
I have. Many times.
I'm sorry, do I get the right to speak without being interrupted, please?
Well, it is
Yes, indeed.
participation.
Mrs. Townsend, if you remember, at the beginning of the meeting, I did welcome everybody, warm welcome, and I also said, I hope that everyone here this evening will offer the same courtesy to everyone else of listening in silence to each speaker, whether it is during public participation or...
You refer to the public.
No, I mean everybody. I mean everybody.
Okay. I'd be very happy if Mrs. Cruz were to give me an explanation as to why she failed to recommend to represent me.
Okay. Shall we listen to what Councillor Cruz has to say until she's finished? Okay.
Right, having lost the thread, as chairman of Portishead Town Council and as chairman of many bodies, you are told by various people various things, a lot of which are confidential. I was given confidential information regarding this email. I knew it was coming. I was told it was only for my information so that I would be aware of what was going on. I chose to do nothing for that reason. As chairman, I think that was my right to do so, and I am quite happy that I chose to make that decision. I think you have to remember that there are other things other than what is in sections of emails which have actually transpired, and these are not in this email trail, and if they were, things would look an awful lot different than they do.